This is a 5-minute warning before our meeting starts. I'd like to, may I have your attention, I'd like to call our meeting to order and remind all the participants that when speaking, please push talk on the microphones so that participants listening in will be able to hear us clearly. I'd like to recognize Trustee Slade for invocation. Let us pray. Almighty, we come this morning and thank you for all your blessings. Thank you for the opportunity to serve our university and by so doing serve in our community and our country and all the past graduates. Thank you. Now we ask you to be with us today. Let's make decisions and have inputs that we affirming to you as well as our future sake of the university and the students and the faculty all involved. Thank you for your blessings. We pray in your name. Amen. Trustee Valadares will call the roll.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to call the roll. Chairman Holloway,
Present.
Trustee David Alexander,
Present.
Trustee Roderick Allison,
Present.
Trustee Bill Bell,
Present.
Trustee Keith Chadwell,
Present.
Trustee Emily Dickens, present. Trustee Cameron Emery, Trustee Lisa Martinez, Trustee James Mitchell, Trustee Cornell Slade,
Present.
Trustee Antoine Thornton,
Present.
Trustee Alexander Valladares is present. Trustee James Walker. Yep.
Thank you. As chair of the Board of Trustees, it is my responsibility to remind all members of the board of their duty under the State Government Ethics Act to avoid conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict of interest as required by this act. Each member has received the agenda and related information for this Board of Trustees meeting. If any board member knows of any conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before the Board of Trustees at this meeting, the conflict or appearance of the conflict should be identified at this time. Hearing none. I seek a motion that the NCCU Board of Trustees adopt the agenda for April 24, 2024. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Opposes? I seek a motion that the NCCU Board of Trustees approve items on the consent agenda. Minutes of open meeting on February 27, 2024. Minutes of January 18th, 2024, special call meeting. Minutes of January 12th, 2024, special call meeting. Minutes of January 9, 2024, special call meeting. Minutes of December 1, 2023, special call meeting. And all funds budget committee on finance and facilities and petition for political activity committees on executive personnel. May I have a motion from the floor? We're making a correction, and that correction is that the petition for political activity for committee on executive personnel has not been discussed, so that will be excluded. So may I have an agenda with that exclusion? An approval. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Thank you. We will now move into committee reports, and we'd like to recognize Chairwoman Valadares for report of Committee on Academics and Student Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs report. Chair Holloway and members of the Board of Trustees, during this meeting yesterday, the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs received updates from Provost David Jackson and Vice Chancellor Dr. Angela Coleman. Provost Jackson shared, the Spring 2024 Eagle Preview Open House saw a collective turnout of over 1,400 students, parents, and others who registered to attend on Saturday, March 23rd, 2024. Eagle Preview introduced students and parents to the wonderful academic programs available at the university, provided a tour of the campus and the residential facilities, and exposed them to various student groups, organizations, and extracurricular activities offered at NCCU. Our faculty members have been very productive in terms of their grant writing activity. Researchers have submitted 80 proposals totaling $55.8 million. So far, 65 awards have been granted, amounting to $34.1 million. Other updates include the development of new partnerships with North Carolina community health centers and free clinics, and the establishment of the Rural Health Hub in Halifax County. NCCU became the first UNC system school to participate in the Project Kitty Hawk initiative. Founded in 2022, the program was created to provide online program services to UNC institutions to meet the needs of adult learners. As of 2022, there were 533,000 North Carolina adults with some college but no degree, and 63,000 North Carolina adult learners who attend online programs out of state. NCCU has launched 4 programs through Project Kitty Hawk to address this demand, including number 1, an RN to BSN, number 2, information technology, number 3, business administration, and number 4, health administration. This is the largest of programs offered thus far by any UNC system institution to support the PKH initiative. Another degree in public health education is pending approval. Dr. Coleman shared, the College Readiness Achievement and Retention, Crear Futuros, an initiative funded with support from the Hispanic Federation, was introduced to the NCCU community. Designed as a peer mentoring program, Crear Futuros aims to engage qualified Black and Latino students from various educational institutions. NCCU stands as the sole historically Black college and university, HBCU, partnering with Crear Futuros and the only participating institution in the state of North Carolina. The total grant from the Hispanic Federation for Crear Futuros amounted to $52,000. Additionally, LC Industries generously donated $400,000 for the 2022-2023 academic year, and an additional $400,000 for the 2023-2024 academic year to enhance our support for visually impaired scholars, bolstering our assistive technology and equipment resources. This concludes my report on academic and student affairs.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Chairman Thornton for the report of Committee on Advancement.
Thank you, Chairman Holloway. At the Committee on Advancement and External Affairs yesterday, Vice Chancellor Susan Hester provided updates on our year-to-date fiscal fundraising endeavors. On April 2nd, the university celebrated our annual Day of Giving, surpassing our goal of $600,000 and raising an impressive $788,431, marking a 131% increase over our target. Institutional Advancement also shared their strategic plan goals and objectives. They are as follows. Goal number 1, fostering a culture of transformational philanthropy within the NCCU community. Objective 1.2, amplify philanthropic giving and engagement across all fundraising functions. Goal number 2, cultivate robust collaborations with internal and external partners to enhance value-added initiatives. Objective 2.2, expand the pipeline for corporate, foundation, and organizational partnerships. Furthermore, institutional advancement is excited to announce that Chancellor Akinlayi's retirement celebration will take place this Saturday, April 27, 2024, in the new Student Center. All proceeds from this event will benefit the Chancellor and First Lady Akinlayi Scholarship. This concludes my report on advancement in external affairs.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Chairman Slade for the report of Committee on Athletics. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Athletic reports. Yesterday, the Committee on Athletics received the following updates from Athletic Director, Dr. Lewis Perkins. Football turf replacement project was successfully completed on March 16th. Two of our basketball athletes, Jadarius Harris and Fred Cleveland Jr. were selected to participate in the HBCU All-Star Game in Phoenix, Arizona. Fred Cleveland was recognized as the Sam Jones Player of the Year, selected by the Foxborough All-American First Team and NABC District 15 First Team. Additionally, two of our women's basketball athletes were selected for the All-MEAC team. Morgan Callahan was on the defensive team, and Kyla Bryant was a rookie on the rookie team. Morgan Callahan was also selected to the Boxborough All-American second team. All of our sports teams are continuing to excel. The tennis team participating in a 2024 MEAC Roundup, and the women's and men's golf team placing first in the Hornet Invitational hosted by Alabama State University. Championship signs are now proudly placed by North Carolina 147 southbound, Interstate I-40 eastbound, and North Carolina 55 northbound and I-85. Dr. Perkins also shared information about the athletic fundraising campaign strategic plan. Thorough SWOT analysis was conducted to analyze relationship building as well as ensure clear communication regarding MEAC's NCTU's athletic department. Regarding facility upgrades funded through fundraising efforts in 2022 have been completed in the McDougal-McClendon Arena, including the weight room, PT room, polo tub, and tennis locker, and the Dr. Leroy Walker complex, comprising upgrades to the weight room and the establishment of an indoor tennis facility. The athletic department will continue to address faculty improvements and need to ensure our athletes have the best possible environment, training and competing. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report. Thank you, Trustee Slade. Next, we'll have the Committee on Endowment report. Yesterday, the Committee on Endowment received an update regarding the status of our investment portfolio, which has demonstrated growth and positive performance. In addition, we received presentations from the University Investment Advisors from Exponix, UNC Management, and the NCCU Foundation. This concludes my report on endowment. I'd like to recognize Chairman Chadwell for the report of the Committee on Audit.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, yesterday, the Audit Committee received the report from Mr. Robert Gaines, Director of Internal Audit, regarding the an annual risk assessment timetable. The internal audit team initiated this risk assessment timetable on March 20th, focusing on the distribution of departmental risks. This process will culminate with the approval of the final fiscal year 25 audit plan on June 26, 2024. This concludes my report on audit.
Thank you, Trustee Chad. I would like to recognize Chairwoman Martinez for the report of Committee on Finance and Facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Finance and Facilities yesterday advanced Vice Chancellor Matherson provided updates regarding the enrollment growth reduction of $781,858 for fiscal year 2024 through 25. The reduction includes a combination of an enrollment shortfall for fall and spring and funding for meeting 2 of the 6 strategic metrics. Snapshot of the completed projects, including the football turf and the new school of business. Review of ongoing projects that encompasses the 24/7 Collaborative Learning and Research Center, the WNCU radio station renovation project, and the Baines Hall demolition. Additionally, renovations are underway for the Lee Biology and Taylor Education buildings. The committee approved a motion to move an action item to today's consent agenda. Action item 1, the all funds budget. This concludes my report on finance and facilities.
Thank you, Chairman Martinez. Next, I'd like to recognize the Chancellor for a special presentation.
Good morning, everyone. To Mr. the Chairman and board members and to colleagues and friends, this is a time where we celebrate and acknowledge the work of our SGA president and a member of this board, Mr. Cameron Emery, who has been just an outstanding leader for the students and a great member of this board. Mr. Emery will be leaving us this May, actually, in another week or so. He's graduating. And this morning, we want to recognize his work here at NCCU, his work on the board of trustees, and his contribution overall to NCCU. So, Mr. Chairman, will you please join me, Mr. Emery? Please come forward. Mr. Emery, on behalf of our Board of Trustees, NCCU, and the entire alumni community, of which you will be a member in a few days, it is our pleasure to present to you this plaque for all of the love and dedication and your work to the student body here at NCCU. And it reads, North Carolina Central University Division of Student Affairs presents Outstanding Student Leadership Award to Cameron E. Emery, 2324 SGA President and member of the Board of Trustees. Thank you for all your work for this great institution.
For all the hard work that you put in for us. It's great as a trustee body to have representation from the students, and you certainly did that in an admirable way. We will miss you here at the board and look forward to your successor coming in, doing some great things also. But please understand that this is always your home. You're always an Eagle, and definitely you will always be characterized as a trustee. So thank you so much.
Oh, wow. I didn't know I was getting the award till yesterday. You're right. But I want to take time to thank the board. I could say that it's hard to get to know people, you know, when you meet every other month. But I could say each and one of you all have provided some type of resource or insight for me from anything, you know, from Miss Trustee Dickens providing just resources she had, from Trustee Allison telling me all about Chancellor Julius Chambers. It has really been a great time to be on this board. I want to thank the Chancellor for his leadership, really has helped me a lot in our one-on-one meetings. I want to thank my line brothers here in the back. I love them so much. I want to thank my vice president. Without her, I wouldn't do nothing. I can't tell y'all. That's a strong woman right there. She has kept me on my toes. I think my vice chancellor, she has really showed me how to really do this leadership. Like she always say, all roads lead to student affairs, and that is very true. So everything that I do, I give thanks to her. And I just give thanks to myself because I really, I'm be honest. Because it was times I did not want to come to a meeting, but I'm here and I'm blessed, and I'm so excited for my new endeavors as I am traveling back home just for a little bit, back to Champaign, Illinois, just to give back some time to my family, and then hopefully moving to Charlotte to do some work there. So I thank you all, and it has been a great time. Also, thank you, the Chancellor Executive Leadership Board, from Provost Jackson to VC Matheson to VC Hester. That's been helpful as well. So I thank you all, and it's been great serving as the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Mr. Emery. We wish you all the best, and we know that you are going to be a soaring eagle, and we want to keep you in our diaries and everything. We'll be in touch with you. Please do not forget NCCU. And as I always remind all of you as you graduate from here, when you make that $1 million, make sure you give money back to NCCU. Okay? Thank you so much.
Chancellor, I'd like to recognize you for your presentation.
Good morning again to the chairman and to all board members and to our executive leadership team and colleagues and staff members who are present here this morning. It is my pleasure to provide a quick report to the board. I know that we have a very busy agenda today, not just this morning. We have some things planned. So therefore, I will be somewhat brief in my presentation, but nevertheless, I would underscore some important things that I want to bring to the attention of the board. Before I really get into my report, I want to ask you to please keep HBCUs in your prayers. I'm sure that you've heard about the shooting at Delaware State University 2 days ago, where 8 students were shot, 1 fatality, and of course, yesterday at Shaw University, there was another shooting there. I also want to say to you as board members to just keep our education institutions in your prayers. The protest that is going on in Columbia University and across many other institutions, it's really an issue that we're all looking at and concerned with, and keep our institutions, our students, and the nation in our prayers. Just want to bring that to your attention. I also want to call your attention to something that we left for you on your desks. It's in the maroon envelope there. It's the NCCU Now magazine. This is the spring edition copy. I want you to take a look at it. Some of you may find yourself highlighted in there. In fact, I'm going to show page 37, and you'll see our newest members displayed on page 27, and you all look good, by the way. So this is a great spring edition, has a lot of information about NCCU and many of the accomplishments and the initiatives that we've made. And I want to congratulate Mr. Fushi and his team for a great publication. So I do invite you to, at your leisure, to spend some time perusing the magazine. So what I want to do this morning, as we've always discussed, that it's always important for me to bring to you policy matters. In other words, to inform our board about policy matters as they may affect, our institution and the UNC public institution in general. And one that we've talked about in some regards, maybe briefly, is the return on investment report, which I have invited all of you to read, and some of you have done that. But I wanted to just spend a few minutes to highlight some of the facts and figures in this report, and how and draw a line to how it affects NCCU. So as you begin to think about the impact of policies and things like that, you are thinking about the institution that you're responsible for. So if you look at the return on investment, as we've said before, I will cover a couple of areas here. The purpose of the study, which you already know, the definition and the scope of the study, the results at program level findings, NCCU level findings, the program in there that speak to NCCU, and also in what ways can a positive ROI benefit NCCU. And of course, I would also talk about the revisions in the policy 400.1, policy on academic planning, as a result of the ROI. And why am I doing this? I want to be sure that our board is well aware of policies that may impact our institution as we move forward. So we go to slide 1 on the purpose there. Again, as we've said, this was a state legislative funded report to analyze and evaluate post-secondary degree academic programs offered at all of our UNC institutions. And of course, there were area of analysis here, 3 in particular. They looked at operational costs, student outcomes, and the return on investments. And by the way, this was a report that was given to Deloitte to do. It's a consulting firm. It does have some areas where we've questioned data and things like that, but overall, it still has its values. And I wanted to share those. Those are the areas that were looked at in the report. Operational costs for educational institutions and degree programs, student outcomes, and the actual return on investment. Next slide, please. So again, you see the formula there, return on investment equals lifetime earnings minus the cost of college. So if you look at how much money you spend, we can look at Trustee Alexander, how much money he paid for law school here, and Trustee Dickens, and compare that to her lifetime earning. Trustee Dickens, how much money is she making now? If she takes the cost of education out of that, and you can see that she's doing very well. And so does Trustee Alexander. Both are doing very well. I'm really proud of them. They are really good examples of NCCU ROI. Okay. So again, they looked at a number of programs across the system, 600 undergraduate programs and 315 graduate programs between 2015 and 2020. And it's quite interesting what they found out. Medium incremental life return on investment for undergraduate degree program. In other words, person who gets an undergraduate degree program stands to make $497,000. That's $500,000, in a lifetime money. A graduate, of NCCU, roughly $1 million. And as I said earlier, I know that our graduates are making more than $1 million. Next slide, please. So to quickly run through, because when we hear about the ROI, I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that many of the degree programs at the US system are actually doing very well. They are actually providing very good return on investment. 93% of the programs across the UNC system is doing very well. They have positive ROI. For the undergraduate, it's 91%. And that's pretty high, by the standard and the benchmarks that are used. 69% of the graduate programs had an ROI of, as I've said earlier, $500,000. I don't think if it's some very few professions and jobs without a degree that you can make that kind of money unless you own your own business. It's also very important, and this is not anything new that we didn't know. The highest ROI programs in our educational institutions in the UNC system are listed here. So you look at undergraduate program, science, of course, technologies and technicians, they make a lot of money. We know that. Applied mathematics in general, biostatics, chemical engineering, computer engineering. And for undergraduate programs, these are programs that are making a lot of money. Now, this is not an exclusive. These are just some examples that we've cited here. When you look at graduate programs, you see the programs that are doing very well: dental, clinical science, general computer engineering, health professions, related clinical sciences, biotech, technology, data modeling, warehouse, and database administration. These are programs that not only do students get jobs in them when they come out, they also make a very decent living in general. Next slide, please. But there are some programs that didn't fare very well when we look at the ROI. I didn't want to go through the entire UNC system, so I've limited this to the programs that I cited from NCCU that perhaps may not have the ROI that we've discussed here. Music was one. Hospitality management, I was a little surprised about hospitality management, frankly. And I think perhaps the reason why that comes on the list is because many students who come out of that program do start their own business. It was one of the areas that we discussed that was not heavily reflected in this report. Students who do not work for an organization where you can capture their earning, people who go to start their own, and that is not reported by the Labor Department. So it was hard to capture that. So I'm very sure that our hospitality management program is one of the most popular programs here. And we know a number of people who own restaurants. Our own mayor now, I think, has opened his second or third restaurant, and a few other graduates that I know here in Durham, just alone, who own their own restaurants. So they're doing very well. But in terms of salary, they're not captured as doing well here. Theater and dance. Of course, you can always see that. And here, I believe there was jazz studies in there as well. We know that jazz studies is a very popular program. The same issue. They don't go to work for people, they don't make a lot of money, but these are programs that add value, nevertheless, culturally and all of that. So I'm a little surprised about the chemistry program because, again, these are some of the things that we question in the data that was provided by the consulting firm. We think chemistry is doing well. It depends on what area of chemistry you go into to determine whether or not you really make a lifetime earning that is worth anything. And so for terrains in which the data was collected here, we want to highlight that to you. They look at student enrollment, human resources, financial aid, and of course, career outcomes. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to share with you is in what ways can a positive ROI benefit NCCU? One, it'll help us to also begin to determine how to assess the effectiveness of investments into various programs, initiatives, and resources across our campus. We need to do perhaps a better job in putting in resources and allocation to certain programs here, assessing their effectiveness. Strategic planning. We think it's also important to prioritize in areas of investment and improvement by identifying which programs yield the highest returns as we begin to market our programs and encourage students in career planning. Students always have the program that they want to go into, but it's also part of our responsibility when we are talking about career planning, career advice, to begin to help students to understand what are in certain fields and how they can fare as they make those decisions. Quantifying the returns generator for investment. It's also important for us to be able to properly quantify what returns are. And as I mentioned earlier, we talked about JAS studies. You can't always quantify ROI by just the earnings that someone makes. I mean, everybody wants to make good money. There's no question about it. But there are certain programs that are there. I hate to say that just for intrinsic reward alone, because you still want to make a living. But there are programs that add value to what we do in life, cultural arts, performing arts, music. And so we don't want to just advise students away from these programs. But what we can say to students as they are planning, say for instance, a student says, well, I want to major in music. We need to be able to say to the student, what do you want to do with that? Perhaps maybe you need to have a minor in entrepreneurship along with that. Why is that essential? You can own your own business. You want to show them how to start. If you make a CD, how do you market that? Things that can generate money for you. So it's important for us to be able to help them to quantify what the return is and how to maximize. I would hate for a student to be talked away from something that, a dream that they really have. So what do? We need to show them ways by which they can enhance that. And for me and for us at NCCU, we put a lot of emphasis in saying to our students, these are things that you can couple with this that to really enhance your competitive advantage, high ROI scores. When we can, some people have said, well, we don't know whether this study is good or not. It's a good study because when we have the data to support, certain programs, when we go out to recruit, we have things that we can say to students for sure that, look, we want to know what this program can generate. We have your data here, and it would help us to recruit and to attract students and faculty, even research, when we go out looking for funding and particularly donor support. They want to know, well, how's my investment going to help? We can show them this data and say, okay, this is where you do. And then, of course, it's important for us to look at the ROI and see how here at NCCU, we can begin to identify areas of improvement and implement strategies to enhance program effectiveness and efficiency. This is really key for us because as an institution, we have to be able to say to certain programs where year after year after year after year, we only have very limited amount of students and we're not helping them to create. We need to be able to motivate faculty in that area to be able to enhance what they are doing. And not just stay there and say, okay, yeah, we got 2 students, we got 3 students. How can we help to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of some of our programs that have low ROI and low enrollment? And I'm not going to mention, but we do have a few as we do program review. Next slide. The end result of the ROI led to the revisions of policy on academic programming, the UNC policy 400.1. As a result of the findings, which I've just spent good time to summarize for you, there were some comments made about how do we, when we are introducing new programs, new degree programs, what are some of the questions and areas that we need to be putting into that as we get the programs approved, as we put the program through approval. Next slide. And these are the area of the proposed reform. Institutionalize a focus on student ROI in program development and review. In other words, if you want to start a PhD in educational leadership, let's say, for instance, there should be a section in there where you discuss the possible ROI for students who are in that program and how going into this program, if they are looking for money, they want to make a whole lot of money. Maybe educational leadership is not the program for them. Maybe you should look at something in biotech. I'm not saying that educational leadership is not a good program, but I'm saying that we need to have a section in there that talks about student return on investment. Empower campus leaders to engage in regular academic program review process. In other words, we should review our program periodically. In fact, there should be a cycle. We already have a cycle here at NCCU. I think it's every 3 years we go through some program reviews. We also bring in external reviewers to look at some of our programs and be able to suggest to us. But in light of these ROI studies, these are the things that are being suggested to the system to try to infuse in the revisions of the academic program. Strengthen and clarify systems offices' obligations regarding assessment of the needs of the state and the system's program portfolio. And this is also good. How can this program help the state, the workforce in the state? What would it do? That would also help to move the program in the positive direction. Next slide. Then, of course, after that, there are some discussions in terms of what do we do moving forward. The system has already begun this conversation. Some of them actually, we've had meetings in February, this past board meeting. So some of these are we've already taken some of these steps, by the way. That's what I'm trying to say here. Discussion and feedback from each committee. This was discussed in February because they had several committees that were looking at it. Circulate for campus and faculty feedback in March and April. We've already done that. There were a lot of feedback that came from our campuses that went to the system. Incorporate feedback where appropriate into the red line. That is being done right now as we speak. In fact, it was presented in the last minute, the red line. Revise current regulation to align with revised policy and provide detailed guidance on program review and approval metrics. This is what we are saying as we move forward. Now, where I'm most excited is the next slide that I wanted to share with you all here. And so and this is directly from the UNC system. In fact, this is part of what was presented to the board. The institutional and faculty feedback that they received, and they are very open to it, account for professionals that are critical to society but difficult to quantify on a salary-based ROI analysis, and for the non-monetary benefits of a university education. I'm happy that the system is willing to consider this particular feedback. That's the most important thing to me. I would hate to see our institution limited in the music program because someone is not going to make money from it. Or some programs in humanities and language, which have other values. And so they are open to that, and they are considering ways by which we can recognize these programs and support them, and not just use monetary gains to determine their value. So that's really key. Next one. Protect the role of faculty in program review process. More clearly delineate the chancellor's authority. They are also open to that. And I think it's a really good thing. The chancellor is right on campus working with his or her staff. We should be more proactive, which we also agree, giving the chancellors the authority to take action based on the result of program reviews. In other words, we should have the flexibility to say, okay, how do we improve this program that we know is not doing well? Requires institutional policies to provide shared governance with faculty for programs reviews that have been required. Work with faculty when we have certain programs that may not be performing the way they should be. So they're open to that, which I think is really a great idea. Next slide, please. We received commentary regarding the seven-year cadence of the review cycle, that it was too long and too short. Yes, that's a question for debate. Should we wait for every 7 years to review a program? Should it be every 3 years? Should it be every 5 years? My thing is that, look, you give the president the authority to, one, order a program review when necessary, or give the chancellor the authority to request a program review when you think it's needed. We need to have that flexibility. And those were the other suggestions. The programs that are already substantially perform this review for an accreditor. If you have a program that is currently always reviewed by an accreditor, say like a law school, we already have some, we can't escape that. So we don't want to put undue burden on them and having them to do a program review every year. Or nursing, for instance, where they have an external reviewer. Education, where they have external reviewer and they are compliant. with those. Those programs should not be overburdened again by asking them for review every 3 years or every 5 years. Next slide. So this is also very important. System received comments regarding the burden of compliance with new requirements, particularly the reporting requirements. We've talked about this. Many of our institutions have actually shared with the institution that the burden of reporting that we get sometimes do bog our institution down. Need to find a way to reduce, reporting that we receive from the system. So this is not something new, and the staff has already begun to study academic reportings to present findings and recommendations to the board in the fall of 2024, taking into consideration all of the feedbacks that they've received from us. Next slide. Numerous concerns and comments regarding data source and methodology, including concerns about out of state. I've already mentioned that earlier, that there was some data provided by the consulting firm that we believe, aren't quite what it should be, and the system is also open to that. In fact, here at NCCU, we suggested areas perhaps that may have been overlooked, particularly concerns about out-of-state graduates, students who live here and then go out of state, where we're not able to capture through the Labor Department the statistics on them in terms of how they are doing. We felt that should be incorporated into it. As remember now, this is all about North Carolina institutions. The non-students who live here go and get a graduate degree, a professional degree from other institutions. So all of these we've suggested should be part of the focus, and those metrics should be used when we are trying to determine the holistic aspect of ROI. Next slide. So I hope that that's been helpful to you because we've asked you to read the report, but it's voluminous. It's very long, and I thought that if we can provide for you a quick review as we talk about policy matters, that would help you to begin to think of how and what our institution should be doing and what questions you should be asking as board members. As one, when we decide to introduce a new program that we have to bring before you for approval, what questions should you be asking us about this program? Why do we need this program? What value does it have? How does it move our mission forward? What will it do to the graduates who graduate from this? All of these are good questions when we begin to talk about instituting a new program and the direction for academic programs. That's what I have for you. I know it's short and it's dense, but I hope it is helpful as we talk about policies and what is to come. So they voted, and I think in May, we're still working on the program revisions. No final decisions have been made yet. All of these discussions are ongoing, and the staff at the system is working on a final report that will be presented as it relates to the 400.1. But I'm really happy to say that all of the feedback and comments and suggestions that were made by chancellors and faculty to the system were all taken very well and received in a positive manner. And all those will be reflected in the new policy. Mr. Chairman, without any further question, that concludes my report.
Again, are there any questions of the Chancellor? Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you.
Your report has provided certainly some insight we're going to have to utilize as we see North Carolina Central grow in the future and also assess our current and past programs. Trustee Slade.
I am looking forward to getting this document. I really am questioning. Did I understand that a good graduate makes $1 million a year?
A graduate program, somebody with a master's degree. Yeah.
$1 million
Roughly $1 million,
a year.
no, over the lifetime.
25,000 bucks a year.
Well, that's the medium. That's the medium.
But
In other words, there are some who might make 10 million. They went for the medium, not the total. it's difficult to say this is what one person would make, you know.
I guess I also think I heard you say that for people who don't earn the money in North Carolina, it doesn't count.
No. I'm saying students who, say for instance, finish outside of North Carolina and work somewhere else, it's difficult for us to track them. And we should include that in our data. So if you say, for instance, you got a first degree here, and then you went to William and Mary and got a master's or a PhD, we should be able to follow them as well and include that data and, for the return into North Carolina system.
One last point, I'll simply say, I have a real problem with it.
Well, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, there were concerns about the data, and that is made known. In fact, at the end of the slide, we did. In fact, we sent in some areas where we see there were deficiencies by the consultant, and the system, as a matter of fact, accepted that and agreed that that was something that should have been looked at. It was not looked at, but we don't want to completely cast aside the study, because there were some areas where there could be some improvement for us based on the results. And and I discussed those areas with you. For instance, the programs that I mentioned here, music and all of that. It's also very important to give credit to them, because rather than saying everything should be determined by your income, they are beginning to say, okay, we need to look at other values that a program may add. I might also add that students who own their own businesses were not taken into consideration here, as I said. If you graduate from NCCU, like Ms. Trustee Slade, and you own your own business, how do we capture that? I know he's a millionaire, right? But how do we capture that?
Everybody's gonna be asking for.
But I think the point that we're making here is that, yes, there are some areas of that studies that could, people who own their own business, we should find a way to track that. I think his degrees might have been in business, but he was an entrepreneur. So, that was not captured in this report, and not just for Trustee Slade, across many of our other institutions. Right.
The question that struck me when you were going down that line, and I haven't read the report, when you were looking at that metric, what's the life cycle? What's the time frame that this is measured?
You mean between 15 and 2020? That's what they captured this.
No, I'm speaking about when you talk about a person's earnings.
Yeah, well, over
How many years? 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, what?
No.
right. Yeah, that's the average. And what you would consider is, what is the lifetime, the time that most people get into workforce and by the time they retire. And again, if you go down to the labor department, you get all sorts of statistics depending on the discipline, the area where you are in. This is why we think that more should be done about these studies, this particular study, before we use, and I mean, as I said, they've taken a lot of feedback from us, ways by which they can improve those programs. But what I really do want to, the reason why I want to do this is I want to connect that to our institution here. Like, what programs do we have that we can begin to help students to say, okay, how can you make the best of this program? What do you need to, maybe you need to minor in this program, add that to this to strengthen your possibility of doing well. And I think we have that. We have students who graduate from a music program right now who are doing very well in cutting albums and records. I don't want to mention names, but we have a number of them that you already know. You can capture that because they own their own business and they're doing very well. So to say that music or jazz studies is a low ROI, I disagree with. We just don't have all the data to show people who are not employed by one person or some organization. Yeah. Any other? Yes.
What you just mentioned, Chancellor, I think that was a sentiment I was going for in terms of the business side, because this is kind of structured as employees
Mhm.
and, you know, the kinds of things that can be tracked with W-2s. But when it comes to business,
Right.
you just mentioned jazz, the jazz program, how important it is. We are on the map for some of the best musicians anywhere. And some of our own graduates have gone on to even start departments up north. Like I know of a specific case, you know, of somebody who played the saxophone, who went and, you know, became the director of a program. And so maybe that could be tracked, or maybe not because it's in another state.
Right.
But I think that we're going to start. I love what you said, the approach about being able to quantify, use data beyond just the initial metrics that come in, because there's ways that we might need to figure out innovative ways to kind of capture all that, including, I think, with the work that is happening right now with reaching out to alumni and asking them about their experiences. Can they provide a little bit of qualitative data?
Mhm.
And that will kind of let us find, you know, the benefit that our students are experiencing.
Absolutely. And I would add to the comments, most of the comments that you all have made are the same comments that were made by Board of Governors and others who have read the report. To say that, yes, there's a lot more that can be done and simply just quantify. We need to do more work in that area for the exact reasons that you just mentioned. And that's why this is not yet the revisions in the academic program policies are not finalized, because they are still looking at all these feedbacks that they've got. But for the same reasons that you all are talking about now, it's the reason why I want to present it to you, so that you can understand what is there, what are the shortcomings, what areas we need to strengthen as we begin to look at this program and policy revisions.
Yes.
Yes.
The one last thing I'll say, the lobbyist, former lobbyist in me says that there's data that's not captured here that you can talk about that can really help us.
Yes.
Our education program, if you think about what people make in education in North Carolina and the number of NCCU
Mhm.
teachers that actually stay in the state.
Mhm.
So, you know, I'm married to a former teacher,
Oh, yeah.
but he makes more money now living in Virginia than he could have ever made here, right? Because
for you.
it's a geographic issue. So, but there's the investment in the state for those who stay.
That's right.
So I just think as your policy team is coming up with your talking points as you're walking the halls of the legislature,
Right.
you got to have that type of data that
Absolutely.
they're forsaking some additional financial, you know, freedom to stay here and serve a state that has not yet recognized that our educators need to make more. So you're caught in that cycle, but that's a great talking point.
It is. It is. As you know, if you remember at the beginning of the presentation, I said that this was a study that was commissioned by the legislator. It was not commissioned by higher education. And if there were more broad inputs, perhaps some of those, the parameters of the study could have been expanded at the beginning. So, but we're doing that now at the end. What you just mentioned there is really, really, really an important point. And all of these have been expressed as we look at the report itself and what to do with it and how to move forward with it. Clearly, there's still a lot more work to be done to really determine what is a lifetime earning, what is a return on investment. But we don't want to just put the emphasis alone on monetary factors, you know. So yes.
One last question. Yeah. Does the report encompass all of the system universities?
Yes, sir. All
When
17
we get the
campuses.
report, they'll have every university.
In fact, it does. And it's already on the line. You can access it. What I did here is really just a quick summary of the highlights of it. And you can read it fully. And I wanted to extract areas where, you know, it speaks specifically to NCCU and our programs. And so I think we've accomplished our mission, you know. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Before we go into closed session, I'd like to recognize two trustees. One, Trustee Alexander, who recently had a beautiful baby girl and is giving out cigars for those of you that didn't get any. And also Trustee Dickens for 25 years of wonderful marriage. And you can see great pictures on Facebook. And also like to thank Trustee Dickens because I see a pattern here. from our previous SGA president and the connection she provided for him. And now for Cameron, the support and mentoring for an SGA president. And so now that you've taken on that responsibility, I just want to say thank you. Yes, yeah. So I'd like to recognize trustee Valadares because we're going to be going into closed session. To give everyone at least 10 minutes to vacate the room.
Thank you, Chairman Holloway. I move that we go into closed session. Okay. Okay.